It's back to school time for the largest school district in Texas. This week's Houston Newsmakers works to answer your questions about what to expect this new school year as students go back to class and a new superintendent takes charge, and what role will the city of Houston's brand new director of education play? What's being done to keep your children safe either at school or on the way to school, and where's the money? Why is there a $100 million budget shortfall, and what does it mean for the quality of education? This week on Houston Newsmakers.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
And welcome to Houston Newsmakers as we get ready to get the school year underway for hundreds of thousands of students next week. Joining me to talk about some of the expectations this year, Ken Hewitt, who up to this point has been the interim superintendent of HISD since the departure of Dr. Terry Greer, and Juliet Stepech, who is a former trustee for HISD and now is the director of education for the city of Houston, appointed to that newly created post by Mayor Sylvester Turner. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's pretty heady stuff, this new job title for a new department. What are your thoughts now about as you go into this?
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful for the mayor to have created this new position for the city of Houston. It's been a fantastic opportunity to serve as a person that can help with the communication, coordination, and collaboration between the different educational entities that exist in the city of Houston, and there are many.
Oh yeah, that's a mouthful right there as well. Tell me about this. This is the beginning of the school year. No matter what position you're playing, if you're associated with education, it seems that that's always an exciting time of the year, is it not?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, you end the year and you really feel like, okay, we're tired, we need a rest. And I'll tell you, I've been going around to professional development that we've been having and training classes. I'm not sure if our teachers and principals took a break. And I know the central office staff didn't really take a break. I mean, just as soon as you finish one year, you know you're tired, but they probably take a weekend to recharge their batteries because they're excited about getting started the next year and maintaining the momentum. So it's been quite interesting.
We should let people know that before taking on the title of interim superintendent, you're chief financial officer as well. So you're pretty busy with the staff as well. But after Dr. Greer left, you went out and you had a chance to really see campuses and talk to people who are on the campuses. What kind of comments will you tell the new superintendent about what's going on in HISD?
Well, I tell them that, you know, despite what you might read in the paper or hear on the news, we've got the vast majority of our employees are in it and all about the kids, and they are putting in the effort, putting in the work, and sometimes you don't see the results right away, but it's not because they're not working hard and diligently to try to make things happen. But when you go out there and go into those classrooms and you see what's going on, you watch the interaction, it's very obvious to you that, okay, teaching and learning is going on here. It's just we're so big, and to move this ship and make it happen, it takes a little bit to get that momentum. Now,
we're starting out at a brand new school year. Juliet, now as you start out, what kinds of things do you want, you know, parents to kind of be aware of? Because they really are the stakeholders. It's their responsibility to get involved.
Well, I think it's so important for parents to know that their voice is extraordinarily important. Their participation in helping to support the schools is great as well. There's a very important issue that's going to be on the ballot in November regarding recapture, so they should be informed about that very critical issue in which millions of dollars from the city of Houston will, you know, face the consequence of being taken to the state level. That funding is so important and critical to helping our local communities and schools. So parents can get involved, you know, individually in their schools and issues politically that affect the campuses as well, but most importantly in making sure that they provide their child with a safe home with the resources that they need to be able to support them succeed academically.
And I know you want, obviously, parents to be responsible in that regard as well, but you mentioned recapture. People hear that term. It's kind of difficult to kind of understand what it all means. It has to do with the, quote, shortfall. Is there a layman's version? Is there a Cliff Notes version you could tell us about how what's going on with that?
Sure. In the past, you know, we call it Robin Hood. And it's taken from the wealthy and given to the poor. And so, in short, there's a funding formula basically that the state has in their finance system or in the law that says if you're property wealthy, and so Houston, with obviously our booming downtown, that's part of our taxable values, and divided by the number of students that we have, and it puts you above, that equation puts you at a number, and that number happens to be above what the state calls an equalized wealth level. And so if you're above it, you're considered property wealthy. If you're below it, you're considered property poor, if you will. And so they take from the wealthy and give to the poor. And so basically, if you're above that line, you have to send the excess to the state, and then the state will distribute it to other school districts.
And so now the wording that I see is budget shortfall.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it really a budget shortfall? Then that's not really
No,
what it is.
it's not. It's through nothing that we've done on our own. It's just the way the state finance system works, or doesn't work, if you will. And so we've been trying. Obviously, we had a lawsuit against the state, trying to get the state finance system revamped, or redone, basically. To scrap it and do something new that doesn't necessarily cause a school district with almost 80% economically disadvantaged to be sending money back, when we need those resources to deal with our concentrations of poverty.
And you're part of the trustees for one period of time. What power do you have in that regard? I mean, because it's a state deal,
yeah.
So it kind of makes it a little difficult for you to do anything other than file suit against them.
Right, and the thing is, we were hoping that the Texas Supreme Court would be able to call a special session, because HISD, as the largest school district in the state of Texas, I don't think anyone had ever anticipated that it would be in recapture. But we saw that the signs in the last legislative session that we were going to be in this situation and predicament. Unfortunately, a correction wasn't made. We were hopeful that the Texas Supreme Court would render a decision that would assist, but they said that the system is Byzantine, ossified, outdated, and yet we're still in the same set of circumstances. So we're hopeful in the next legislative session there perhaps could be some changes that can help us, but at present we're facing an election in November where the community is going to have to decide what to do with these dollars.
Still a lot of money that may be going out, and you need that. Have you been able to see how it might impact the teaching, the level, the ground floor, really, the foundation of what's going on? Was there any impact with that money going away?
Well, we hope that when we were making the cuts to be able to have this $162 million payment, we focused on areas the furthest away from the classroom, because teaching and learning obviously is our core business. And so we were saying that's the last place we're going to go. We're going to, everything on the peripheral we're going to affect, but we're not going to touch the classroom. And so everything on the peripheral is all that support for what's going on in the classroom. But we were fortunate that we didn't have to. Now, we did cut $40 million from the campus budgets, but we think that that might, it didn't necessarily mean that it had to be a teacher that was it might have been a contract that might have had to be reduced from 5 days a week to 4 days a week or 3 days a week, something like that. So, but not to affect the teaching and learning. We hope that we didn't do anything to affect that.
Most recently, there's been a lot of controversy about schools, names of schools. I know there are a lot of people who were upset about their schools that have been named what they've been for such a long time, being changed. A lot of money being spent. Well, not a lot of money. When you talk about $162 million you're sending back, when you talk about how much money it actually costs to kind of change the names of schools, what do you fall on that? As staff members or people, you're a former trustee, so you didn't vote this particular time, but what's your take on what's going on with those schools being named other than Confederate-related
So
names?
I'll say first that as the administration, we serve at the pleasure of the board.
I understand.
The amount of dollars, and I believe we brought an item last week to the board to say it's about $1.2 million that we estimated to make those changes. Those dollars could be utilized from, say, our fund balance. In fund balance, we use it for one-time uses. You wouldn't use fund balance to pay for salaries, because that's a recurring cost, and before you know it, you're out of fund balance. And so we always say when we have to upgrade our finance system or upgrade our student information system, we would go to fund balance, because that's a one-time use of those dollars and it doesn't recur, and so it's an appropriate use of it. And that's what we did with this. I mean, again, a lot about education is social emotional, and the culture in which our kids are exposed to. And so it's one of those things where you've got arguments both ways, but again, we ended up landing on, here's what the majority of the board voted for. They went through the process with the communities. The communities came back with names. Some might have been reluctantly or whatever, but they did come back with names. And so the process was the process, and that's,
Now that you're on the outside, so to speak. Can you see the change in dynamic even before the new superintendent comes in from what was the aura or the dynamic of the board before?
Well, what I can see is that it's been interesting in serving in this new capacity. I think that, you know, while I was on the school board, or any person that's on the school board, they're focusing on what's happening in their particular district, and now serving in this capacity of looking at what's happening in the entire city of Houston, it's provided me with a unique opportunity to look at what's occurring in the 17 different school districts that exist within the city of Houston. There's also the institutions of higher learning, so many different technical training, apprenticeship programs that exist in the city of Houston as well, and trying to look at how can we get these different networks to start collaborating with one another. How can we bring in corporations, nonprofits, and different folks to assist us in this time, especially given the budget shortfalls? How can we use the collective expertise of what exists in the city of Houston to have high expectations for all children, regardless of zip code, and also supplementing the resources with bringing in mentors, role models, tutors, and just building a vision for high expectations for educational opportunity in the city of Houston.
How surprised were you to see this evolve? Because the mayor talked about this while it was on the stump, so to speak, and then it evolved and now, boom, it's here. Pleasantly surprised, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, education is critical in the story of Mayor Sylvester Turner's life. Growing up in Acres Home, having the opportunity to go to U of H and Harvard Law School, I know that educational opportunity is so transformative and changed my life as well. And so what we're looking at is education has to be at the forefront of conversation because it is the greatest indicator for the fiscal well-being of a community. And so what can we do to make sure that it's constantly on everyone's mind, especially given the very unique issues that are happening in our community today? Dramatic demographic changes. What are we going to do to create unique solutions that fit today's circumstances?
This is the whole new different dynamic, isn't it? I mean, the model that's being created here in Houston, not only we're a demographically diverse city, one of the most diverse in the country, but this whole relationship is something unique. Maybe this is the model going forward, too, for what may be best for the country.
Absolutely. I think, you know, the fact of the matter is there's not enough revenue that we bring in as a district that can handle all the needs that we have. And so it really is a community effort that's required. And, you know, one of the things that people have to understand is this is not just an HISD problem. And so it's a community issue. And so we're trying to, and there are many that are trying to see what they can do to help. You know, roll up the sleeves and try to, how can we get in there and help you? And so we're trying to make sure that we have avenues available for them to come in and assist us when we can't obviously take care of it all ourselves. And so it's this whole wraparound thought process is, it is taking off, and we welcome it.
Well, I thank you for coming in and talking about this. We're getting ready to start the new year. I know that a new superintendent's coming in. You're going to lose that interim title and go back to Chief Financial Officer in charge of a whole lot of stuff.
Yes, sir.
That's a challenge.
That'll be a good thing. Good to see you as always. Juliet, always a pleasure as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for both coming in. Good luck in the school year ahead. Really interested in this new job. That's great. Need any help, let me know.
Thank you.
Just ahead, how safe are your children in school on their way to school as well? A conversation with the HISD Chief of Police and Vice President of the Houston Federation of Teachers about the challenges ahead this new school year. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues. And welcome back, and welcome to HISD Chief of Police Robert Mock and Zeph Capo, the president of the Houston Federation of Teachers. Is that the name of it?
That's it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Earlier I called you vice president, and I realized you're president now. So it's a quick promotion.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on that. Hey, first day of school, a lot going on both for you and for the teachers involved. Talk about some of the priorities you want everybody to be aware of as they're going in the first day of school.
Well, in the first, and really the first week or two of school, we have several things that really just be aware of. Be aware that kids are going to be out. They're going to be walking to school. Buses are going to be out. There's going to be school zones will be in effect. And just a caveat on those school zones, sometimes it takes a week or two to get the timing just right so that the beacons are flashing when the kids are going to school. And we work real closely with the City of Houston on that, trying to get them all done. But just because the lights aren't flashing doesn't mean there may not be kids around. And just really we want to create awareness and just be aware and bring patience. Bring some patience.
What do you tell the parents? I mean, obviously people driving through the school zones, they're parents too.
Yes,
They want to be involved, but a lot of people are driving around schools. They don't have kids anymore. They kind of forget about school. That's a whole different, it's a whole different attitude shift, isn't it?
It is. And so again, we want to create that awareness, and that there's going to be some congestion, there's going to be some traffic around the schools, particularly the first week, and particularly around elementary schools. Our parents they're very dedicated, and they want to make sure they get their children in, and the younger ones, and we're good with that. And so just, if you don't have to drive by the school, you may want to try to take an alternate route for at least a week or so till people get set in the routine, and that way, you know, it'll be less frustration on their part. And just keep an eye out for the kids too. We have a lot of kids that walk to school and ride their bikes to school, and keep an eye out for them, not only on the road, but make sure for their well-being as well, because we need all eyes, you know, on the kids.
This is an exciting time for all teachers too, is it not? Let me just say this. I am the first person in my family not to have been a teacher. Yes. I don't say that with any pride. I say that just the way it was. But I saw the dedication that was going on from my principal grandfather, my teacher grandmother, and mother, and my sister. These teachers, people say, well, they got summer off. A lot of times, that's a misnomer, is it not?
That's a complete misnomer. First and foremost, if they're not working summer school, they're in a workshop somewhere, they're training for the newest curriculum updates, they are focusing on ensuring that they're prepared to greet their kids the first day of school. So the myth of the summer has turned into an urban legend in HISD and school districts across the country.
What is the challenge of trying to get students settled down and get ready to go ahead and start learning again? First of all, the summer brain drain, so to speak, where they haven't really been paying attention to a lot of things related to education. Right. Now they're back, and it takes a while to get things going again. Teachers have to have a unique set of skills in terms of harnessing that energy, do they not?
They do. A great deal of patience, first and foremost, but excitement levels. And I think, especially this year, there's a great deal of optimism and excitement for some real changes in the climate of our schools and the focus that we move forward.
Why so?
We're undergoing some changes. We're going to be welcoming a new superintendent to HISD, so always at the beginning of a new administration, there's a sense of wonder in what's coming next and what are going to be the new priorities that we focus on. And we've had some early indication that those priorities are going to be directly in line with what most of our teachers know are very important for our kids.
What are you telling, at the start of the year, what's the most important thing that parents should know? As they're getting ready to send their kids to the teachers, what should they be thinking about?
I think they should really be thinking about how they build those relationships, those first opportunities to meet the new teacher, to meet their new school, to ensure that they understand the surroundings of that school and how that school works. And that's especially important if your student is going to a new school for the first year, in making sure that parents are really comfortable with the surroundings and the situation, and that bond starts early, because there is not a more important relationship than the relationship between the teachers and the parents in their classrooms.
And how does the union work with the teachers? How does the union's relationship with all the teachers in HISD?
Well, we advocate for every teacher in HISD, you know, at the individual level for teachers that need supports, whether it's through professional development training, whether it's through working through district policy and individual concerns, or whether it's on the big picture basis. One of the issues that we've been advocating for the past year are community schools. Our teachers know that our students need the wraparound services to become successful. Kids that come to school with a toothache because they've never been able to go to the dentist are not going to be focused on their ABCs. They're going to be focused on that pain and then that immediate need to get corrective action. And that's one of the optimistic pieces that we see as a new superintendent and our former interim superintendent, who's been very focused on ensuring that the entire family is at the center of our educational process.
Community schools kind of reminds me of community policing. A lot of times the police officers, whether they're HISD or not, especially, they're like the first line of if anything's going on. They can kind of be there. Do you sense that the HISD Police Department is really focused on trying to make sure that you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on so that the kids are safe?
Yeah, that's obviously that's our #1 priority, to make sure that kids are safe, feel safe in school, so that they can learn and not interrupt the learning. And you're right about community policing. I've often advocated that school policing is the definition of community policing, because we're in that community, and it's very representative of the community that they're in.
A lot of what we've been seeing over the last year, social media is a big part of a lot of things now. And one of the negative things about it, sometimes, and once upon a time you have an occasional fight, it's just an occasional fight, it goes away. Now, they're on YouTube. Everywhere you turn, you can see these fights going on, and that creates a whole different kind of climate. It almost makes it look like kids want to be on video, and that kind of escalates things. You put that in with the bullying that may be going on, and it creates a whole different kind of challenge for policing these days, does it not?
It does, and again, that's where we need everybody's help also, because a lot of times these incidents, once it gets down to a fight, there's other things that have preceded that could be a warning. So we ask the kids to speak out, speak to someone, speak to your parents, your teacher, your counselor, the officer on campus. That's a big thing we stress with our officers. The mentor position is just as important, if not more, than the law enforcement position on the campus. So speak to someone, let them know that there's an issue going on and you think there could be a problem, and then we can take steps to address it before it escalates to a fight.
What do you tell teachers? What are you telling teachers about watching those kinds of things? Because the bullying part really can be a problem, and a lot of times the teachers are some of the first people who will see that as well.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that we focus on quite a bit, is ensuring that all of our educators are aware of the signs of bullying, know what the resources are to help mitigate the circumstances that create those situations on our school grounds and in our school classrooms. The HISD administration and board has worked with us over the last several years to create strong policies that work against bullying, not only for kids, but for employees as well, too. So I think that there's a commitment to ensuring that we all work together to ensure that everybody has a safe and welcoming environment for both teaching and learning.
One of the things I've noticed about HISD police is you've been experimenting and now have body cameras for the police officers as well. That's something relatively new, is it not? How is that process working? And we'll talk about that, and also the comfort factor that you may have, the privacy issues that go into that as well.
Well, and we had them all last school year, so they've been in place almost a year now, and it's worked out well, because we've been able to document, #1, how our officers are doing, and sometimes we can create training or things we need to clarify to officers, and also it helps give a clearer picture of what occurred, and so it's really a supplement to what we have already. The district has over 13,000 cameras in all the schools, so this is just another view or another of what occurred many times. So we'll have multiple sources that we can look at video to see what occurred.
Is it working for you? I know at some point in time there was a little bit of a concern about privacy issues, about when they're turned on, when they're turned off, because I know a lot of times when we go into schools, we can't get pictures of kids. So of course these cameras, they're not going out. They're just
they're right. They're right. If anything, if it's captured and saved, it's for evidential reasons.
Right. So I think the cameras with the police officers are an issue that has not been a concern for our educators. Frankly, it's been some of the misapplied state laws regarding cameras, such as the cameras in classrooms, that's been a real concern for our special education teachers. I think that everyone wants to ensure that we have safety and security. That's a priority #1. How we go about implementing those policies is really the key.
Right. You talked about the cameras in classroom special ed. What's the issue with that?
Yeah, so we've had the legislature take a wrong tack where many special ed student advocates have really fought for having cameras in the classroom, so that for students that may not be able to speak for themselves, they have these cameras that can speak for them. Unfortunately, that's really the wrong take. We've battled for decades in how we basically handle all of our students. Rather than having cameras be the answer, we've advocated for ensuring that our special ed students were front and center in our schools, visible in our schools. Too often, even today, you can walk into campuses where special ed classrooms will be in the back of the building, off in the corner, which is the exact opposite direction. We shouldn't be relying on cameras. We should be ensuring that they are 100% part of our daily life, because then they're surrounded by teachers and educators and fellow students every minute of the day.
In the meantime, someone would say that if everything's going well, what's the point? What's the problem of having a camera there just in case it's necessary?
Right, and I think that for the most part, we understand that, but just like every one of us, we have those opportunities during our work day that we may need to call our doctor to talk about our private medical conditions, ensure that we leave a message for our family members, our spouses, and others, and you simply, it's like having Big Brother 24/7 sometimes, which is what you have to work through when we implement these policies.
Let's talk about the buses now. I don't know where your jurisdictions are on that, but it's interesting and good to see that more buses are coming in with seat belts, because that has really been a real challenge over the last number of years when you see these accidents happen where people are hurt and or killed and they don't necessarily need to be. You're happy with what's going on? Or?
Yes, and it's a process, and obviously as the fleet is replaced, they're working on adding seat belts, and I think it's a great tool, and I encourage parents to encourage their children to use them. I mean, it's just like in the car.
Yeah, our sister local Houston Educational Support Personnel and their president, Retha Thomas, has done a phenomenal job of working with the district to ensure and advocate that 3-point seat belts are on our buses, especially after the tragedy that we had last year.
We still don't have as many. There's still a lot of buses that don't have them. That's correct. How long is it going to take before we get this? It's going to be a number of years, is it not?
Yes, it's and I can't speak for transportation, but I think 60 some odd they purchased this year. So 1,000 bus fleet.
Slow progress, but making it though.
Yeah, and I think they do have a number of them that have at least 2-point belts already.
Both you optimistic for the school year ahead for what's going on? I mean, you were talking about the superintendent, new superintendent, and you're part of that group as well. Everybody's kind of waiting to see what happens. In terms of safety for the students, a lot of drills go on for mass situations.
Yes.
How much focus do you put on that sort of thing?
And we put a lot, and the schools are very good about doing, the fire drills, the intruder drills, and things like that, just to help be prepared, because if you don't, you react how you train or how you practice, and if you don't practice, then you're not going to know how you need to react. So we've got a good relationship with the schools. Everything, like I said, we're by far, we believe that school is still the safest place for your child to be.
Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Well, thanks for
both
having
of you
us.
coming in.
We appreciate it.
You've got a lot on your schedule. You've got a lot. Not only the president of the Federation, the Teachers Union, but also HCC. You're still a trustee at HCC as well, are you not? You haven't stepped down from that, have you?
I have not.
So when do you have time to have fun?
I don't. I go from board meeting to board meeting, but
Was it all for a good cause, though, for
absolutely.
children? That's
Absolutely.
good. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. My thanks to Ken Hewitt, Juliet Stepesh, Chief Mock, and Zeph Capo. If you'd like to see previous shows or get information on this show, go to clicktohouston.com, and under the news banner, click on Newsmakers. Thank you for watching. I'll see you back here on Sunday, August 28th on KPRC Channel 2.